Welcome to another session of Converge 2025. My name is Will with the RoboHead team, and today we're going to be talking about when a review isn't a review and how you can use review tools throughout your project life cycles or maybe even outside of a project completely. So let's dive right in. If you do have questions, please go ahead and throw them into the chat and we'll try to answer them either during the session or after the session is completed. Regardless, though, we will answer your questions. So let's go ahead and dive in. Within RoboHead, one of our strongest features is our review tool. And reviews are excellent when you need to get feedback from folks. And you need to not only get feedback, but you want to do things like track versions, compare versions, and see a nice clean audit trail of who approved, who rejected and asked for edits, and ultimately who signed off on this thing that we're going to deploy or post or print or publish or what have you. And so reviews are great for that when you need, again, kind of a formal structure around the feedback and review process. That said, sometimes reviews are unnecessary. It's just me talking with one or more subject matter experts, and I'm just trying to get their feedback. I don't need to track that they've approved or they've rejected. And so reviews, kind of the idea of a start date, a due date, a decision, it can be a little excessive, so it's unnecessary. Or they're too formal. I want that feedback, but I don't, again, need that yes, it's approved or no, it's not. I just want to get some feedback. And then finally, they can be too complex. Again, when we're deciding who are review owners, who is responsible for approving the review, who do we need to CC, what's a start date, what's a due date, is there a predecessor task involved? All of those things are great within the context of a kind of a formal review in your project lifecycle or workflow. But sometimes, again, you just don't need to have that complexity. And sometimes the review process is too late in the process or project lifecycle. And what I mean by that is we really want to get the feedback at the ideation phase or even at the request phase. And so again, reviews are amazing. The review tools, especially the annotation features, are great, but we don't necessarily always need the formality or complexity of a review in RoboHead. So we're going to talk today about how you can take those review or annotation tools, all the markup and commenting functions that we love about reviews, and use them throughout the rest of the project. And so specifically, we're going to look at it during the request phase. So when you're making a project request, and then we're going to dig into the ideation phase. So how you can use reviews within projects or campaigns or even notes. And then finally, completely outside of the project lifecycle as part of the maintenance and asset management within the library. Let's go ahead and get started. We're going to jump in right now and take a look at how we can do this within the request part of the process. So the first place where I think it makes sense to bring those review tools into a different part of RoboHead is actually at the beginning in the request phase. So how many times when you get requests does someone have a document that they're referencing or maybe a screenshot or even a picture? What do you do with that stuff? Well, normally if you know how to use Apple Preview, you mark it up in Apple Preview, or maybe you open it in Acrobat and mark it up, or maybe you just load the file and then in the description field of the request, you leave a bunch of bullets that on page 1 do this, on paragraph 3 do that. And what we've done with RoboHead is we understand that a lot of our clients are doing that. And so we've taken the review piece, the review functionality in terms of annotations and markups, and pulled it out of the review and allowed you to really mark up any file as part of the request. So here I have a request, and what I would do is, as the requester, I would just be able to go ahead and load up that document. And so I'll go ahead and load up a PDF here. And once that's loaded, you'll notice that this enable annotation thing is marked. And so I can go ahead and save this and then simply click on it and mark it up, which is pretty exciting. And so here, as part of my request, I just go ahead and click on that file. And then I'm able to come in and review that document. I don't have to have Acrobat. I don't need to save it as a different thing. And I can just come in and mark up the stuff that I want changed. So in this scenario, let's just say we're going to change some of this information. And I can go ahead and say, hey, let's update the data here and in any other tables. And now, instead of, again, putting that in a description box or marking it up in some other tool outside of RoboHead, I can just load that supporting document, PDF, image, video, whatever, load it up, add the comments, and now it goes along with my request and is part of that. And so again, it's a really great way just to kind of take those annotation tools, bring them into the same place where everyone else is marking up all of the proofs and the other things that you're providing, and letting your requesters kind of take more control over their request, provide more information in a way that's really intuitive and easy for the creative team or the coordinators or whoever else is involved to kind of pull that information and see it. And so that's the request. I think the next place where we want to look at this, though, is once that request becomes a project, we don't always need to have a formal review where we're reviewing documents. So let's look at how within projects or even campaigns and notes, we can also mark up the document. Now we're going to talk about how you can get feedback and share feedback informally within a project or a campaign. It works the same, but I'm going to use a project as an example. So you can see we've got the Files tab here. I can go ahead and load a file into the Files tab, and then as long as I have annotation enabled, I can come here and I can share a link. So I've got this get link option, and we have this annotation link. And so I can create that, and this can be a user in the system, but it doesn't have to be. It could be, let's say I wanted my printer to take a look at something. As long as I have a valid email address, I can go ahead and create that. So I'll decide who it's going to, and then okay, so they'll get an email notification, and it'll look like this, and they can just click view. And if it's their first time ever placing a markup, they'll have to enter in their name, but then they can look at the document, and they can use all of the markup or annotation tools that are available to you. I'm going to use just a highlighter in this scenario. Say this benchmark report, this thing looks off to me. So I look at it. Let's say I even want to check the font, and I'm like, oh yeah, that does it. Not only does it look off, it is off. It should actually be Roboto bold. And so I can say, hey, this needs changed to bold, and then save that. And again, the nice thing here is it's tied back to the project, tied back to the campaign that it was originally a part of. You also have the ability from within a project to have notes. And if you were to add a note, I can share files on that as well. It works the same way. I would just select the file and then keep the annotation enabled. And now that is going to be available for folks to mark up. They can click on the note notification or click on the note in RoboHead, open up the file and mark it up. So there you go. And that works not just with projects and campaigns, but also works with requests as well. So we've talked about how at the request point, the requester can load a file. We've talked about how you can share files both in the Files tab and in the Notes tab on projects and on campaigns. The final thing I want to draw your attention to is the library. So when you're in the library, folks also have the ability to share. So this is very similar, is just going to go ahead and get the link, get the annotation link, and someone could open up the document and mark it up. And so in this scenario, I'm just going to come in and say, hey, you know what, we need to check the numbers because these look off to me. And so again, this is not necessarily a project. I notice that we have the wrong version, and I can save. So I hope this has been helpful. Just a bunch of different ways that you can share files and documents, whether it is a proof of concept or just a screen grab or an actual proof. But you can go outside of that review process and just kind of more in an ad hoc way share and get feedback from folks that are both RoboHead users and folks that are not users. Thanks for attending this session of Converge. Hope that you will continue to enjoy the conference.